Imagine for a second that you just murdered someone, and now your face is plastered on a bunch of wanted posters all over the country. And instead of doing what any normal criminal would do in this situation and probably just, I don't know, hide, you don't choose to hide your face. You choose to change it. So you get plastic surgery. Now no one can recognize you. The police surely won't catch you, right? This is indeed a real case. This is a case of Tatsuya Ishihashi. I might have just butchered that pronunciation, but I tried. I promise, I tried. Hi everyone, my name is Meg. Welcome back to my channel. I've officially been doing YouTube for 1 month and I've stayed consistent. I had a heart attack. If you're not already subscribed, go check. Subscribe. Right, let's get into this case. Before we get into Tatsuya, we have to talk about a woman called Lindsay. Lindsay Ann Hawker was born on the 30th of December 1984, and she grew up around Coventry in England. She was described by family as being very independent, intelligent, and ambitious. She went on to study biology at the University of Leeds. I also went to university in Leeds. And in 2006, she graduated with a first-class degree. After university, Lindsay decided that she wanted to experience something new. So in October of 2006, Lindsay moved to Japan. I'm actually surprised because most people who live in the UK will end up graduating university and just deciding to move to Australia. Bonus points for creativity. She began working as an English teacher for Nova, one of Japan's major English language schools. And from everything we know, Lindsay was really enjoying her life there. She was living with other teachers who would end up being her friends. She was just experiencing so much new culture, meeting new people. But she still kept in regular contact with her friends, family, and boyfriend back home. And she was just excited about her future. But 6 months into her move, she had a very awkward and strange encounter that would end up changing everything. It was March of 2007 and Lindsay was coming home from work. She was at the train station unlocking her bike when a man approached her from behind, and this man literally said to her, "You're my English teacher." She had no idea who this man was. She was like, "I'm not your English teacher. I think you're mistaken." Because he wasn't one of her students. The man just kept asking her a whole bunch of questions. Who are you? Where are you from? What did you study? She tried to cut the conversation short by getting on her bike and literally cycling away. But this did not stop him. The man followed her. As she cycled faster, he started running. As he's running, he's just asking her a bunch of questions. Really weird. Eventually, they ended up outside Lindsay's apartment. Guys, if you are ever being followed, do not lead them to your house, okay? Go anywhere, any public space, not to your house, please. This man's name was Tatsuya Ishihashi. Tatsuya was 28 years old. His parents were both professionals. His dad was a doctor, his mom was a dentist. He was very into fitness and running, hence why he could uphold a conversation, well, a one-way conversation while running. He was described as very quiet and withdrawn, but there was one thing about him. He wanted to learn English. So when he caught up with Lindsay outside of her apartment, he asked her if she could teach him English. Lindsay declined. It then got a little bit awkward because Tatsuya asked Lindsay if he could just have a glass of water. Fair enough, he did just run loads. Lindsay did allow him to come into the apartment. People believe that she was doing this to show him that she had housemates. In fact, she introduced him to these housemates and then later gave them the rundown on what happened. That's when Tatsuya made an offer that Lindsay could simply not decline. He said that he would pay her 3,500 yen per hour for these English lessons. This was around £16 an hour. And for a girl who's just graduated university and probably spent a lot of money moving abroad, she couldn't say no to it. He told her he just wanted to meet in a cafe, learn English, nothing else. No weirdness. Tatsuya was very grateful that she agreed to do these lessons, that he decided to give her a little gift. He took out a piece of paper and drew a picture of her. He signed it with his phone number that she then used to contact him later to organize the first lesson. This first lesson took place on the 25th of March 2007. As planned, they met up at a cafe. It's even on CCTV, though you can kind of see when he gets close to her, the way that she moves back. Everything just appeared normal. They were sitting, talking, learning. When the lesson ended and Lindsay expected to get paid her 3,500 yen, Tatsuya pulled the classic, "Oh, He forgot his money. Tatsuya's apartment was really close by, so he offered to take them there. He can give her the money and then she can go. Lindsay agreed, so they got in a taxi and went to Tatsuya's apartment. Lindsay had work later that day, so she did not expect to be there long. She wanted to grab the money and go. She even asked the taxi driver if he could wait outside for her. She was only going to be a second. The taxi driver waited, and Lindsay never came back. He assumed that she changed her plans and he drove off. Didn't think anything of it. But Lindsay would never leave that apartment alive. Like I said, she did have work later that day, and she didn't end up showing up for work, and people found that very strange. It was very unlike her. She never went back to the apartment, she wasn't answering her calls, and that night, her disappearance is reported to the police. The following day, Lindsay did not show up for work again, so the police decide to start doing some digging. Police went to Lindsay's house and started talking to the housemates, and they had a very important piece of information. Lindsay recently met a man, he followed her home, he drew a picture of her, which they had for the police to look at. It had his name, contact information, everything they needed to get a hold of him. They explained the English lessons and that she went to meet him and she never came back. So that's when police decided to go give Tatsuya a little visit. And nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to see. When they got there, they realized that Tatsuya was actually in the apartment and they feared that he was maybe keeping Lindsay hostage. So they called for backup and basically surrounded the place. As they were preparing to enter the apartment, Tatsuya opens his front door and just books it. And they don't catch him. He gets away. There were multiple police officers and nobody caught him? Right. Police then entered the apartment and discovered just why Tatsuya ran in the first place. They went out onto his balcony and there was a bathtub on the balcony. And unfortunately, Lindsay was in this bathtub covered in dirt and sand. They could only really see her hand to begin with. Her hands and legs had been bound. She had been gagged and she had some severe injuries to her face and body. She had been beaten and strangled. It was an awful sight. He was trying to conceal this bathtub as like a flower garden. He was going to allow it to grow and then she would like feed the garden. She had been severely assaulted. It was absolutely brutal. But there was one particularly disturbing detail. Her hair had been fully shaved off. Police reportedly found her hair in the apartment and they also found women's wigs. They believed one of two theories. They thought either maybe Tatsuya was cross-dressing or he was going to attempt to disguise himself as a woman. Once this got out to the media, a lot of people believed that he cut her hair off to make a wig for himself, but we don't actually know whether or not that was true. They never actually found out why he cut her hair off. Police plastered his face basically everywhere on a wanted poster. They also released images of what he would look like disguised as a woman in case that's what he was doing. You know, they thought that he was just gonna put on a little wig.
Do you wear wigs?
No, I do not.
Have you worn wigs?
No, I have not.
They thought he was just gonna put on a little wig, okay? And that was gonna be his disguise. They had no idea the lengths that he would go to evade arrest. This case became absolutely enormous. And because Tatsuya's face was everywhere, there was 8,000 reported sightings. How are they meant to investigate every single one? A lot of them were useless. At the start of this investigation, Tatsuya decided to start changing his appearance himself. He was removing moles on his face. He apparently then tried to DIY his own plastic surgery with a needle and thread. He was performing facial surgery on himself. He started moving around Japan with a false name and avoided everyone he knew, his whole family. He would take whatever job he could get. He ended up working in construction. And for about a year, he managed to live amongst ordinary people under a false name and nobody recognized him, even though this was such a huge case. He worked for this construction company for about 14 months in Osaka. He lived in the company accommodation under a false name. As far as his colleagues knew, he was simply just like a quiet guy just trying to make a living. But he was actually saving up to get real plastic surgery, and he eventually saved up enough to do so. His nose was changed, his eyelids were altered, his lips were made to be thinner, the moles he tried to remove himself were like permanently removed. He looked nothing like he did before. I mean, just look at this before and after. He could be stood next to you on the bus. You could be looking at the wanted poster and you wouldn't even notice. But in the process of getting this surgery done, he made a huge mistake because the clinic he went to took before and after photos. In October of 2009, there was something about him that made the staff feel a little bit suspicious towards him. And then on top of that, he didn't show up for his follow-up treatment, which he kind of needed to. And the clinic would end up actually contacting the police. And this is when they were able to piece it together. They had the before photos, they had the after photos, they knew what he looked like now. And it almost felt like they had been chasing the wrong guy. For years, the public had been looking for one face, and now they had to look for another. Tatsuya realized they were onto him, so he decided to disappear and hide in the south, okay? And on the 10th of November 2009, he shows up at a ferry station. He had a hat, a surgical mask on, and some glasses. He was trying to make it so no one would recognize him, but the whole getup actually got people more suspicious. Someone at the terminal realized that it could maybe be him, and they called the police. When police got to the ferry station, they approached him, and this time he didn't run. They simply asked for his name, and he gave it to them. And he was finally arrested 31 months after the crime. He was charged with the assault and murder of Lindsay, and his trial began in 2011. He was 32 years old at the time of the trial, and he admitted something very interesting. He admitted that his actions caused her to die, but he said that he didn't intend for her to die. He didn't mean to do it. He claimed that he strangled her to stop her from escaping and screaming, and that like he went too far and he didn't mean for it to happen, but prosecutors argued otherwise. He didn't call an ambulance, he didn't call the police, he didn't really show any signs of remorse. He fled, he changed his identity, like he wanted to get away with this, and I feel like someone with guilt maybe wouldn't want to get away with it. On the 21st of July 2011, he was sentenced to life in prison. My heart really goes out to everyone who knew Lindsay, her friends, her family, her boyfriend. This whole thing just like, there's no reasoning behind it. He just did it. And then he said, oops, I didn't mean to do it. I would love to hear your thoughts on this case. I just think it's fascinating the way he chose to like avoid the police. Very creative, I'll give him that, but I'm glad that he got caught and I'm glad he's spending the rest of his life in jail. That is all for today's case. I hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps small channels like mine quite a lot, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!